Just continuing with this behind the scenes uh, of Seattle at Dawn, our Mage, the Ascension Chronicle. Um, I'm going to kind of go through a few different things that I've been thinking about and that I've been working on for the next season. Um, I'm looking to improve a bit of the production, make things a little neater, a little cleaner, and better for both the watching audience as well as the players. So yesterday or last time, if you're not watching this the day after, um, we talked about token creation for the different players, characters, and even the NPCs that I go through. Um, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of start making different scenes or settings. Um, let me show you what I'm talking about. So let me pull up now that we've had that discussion here. Let me just pull away here. And yesterday, like I said, we made this token here. We created new token for my friend Brian's character Killian, um, and we use these tokens kind of just as little visual references. I know in more tactical games, people use their tokens to indicate their placement on a map and um, kind of figure out the logistics of a combat scenario. But Mage is a little bit more theater of the mind. It's um, and you don't necessarily need to have a grandiose map for people to figure out where and what they're doing with Mage. Um, Plus, just the dynamic nature of magic in the game makes it really difficult um, to have a predictive map for that sort of thing. Because at any moment, a certain mage could take the fight completely somewhere else. They can change the battlefield completely. They can make it all soup if they wanted to. And there's no way to 100% prepare for that. Um, Storytellers and GMs always kind of have to deal with the unexpected when it comes to their players, but when it comes to Mage, the unexpected is the daily. Um, so, um, what works best for me is not to set up different like combat scenarios and things like that. It's more to um, have that conversation with the players, kind of help them unfold the story and kind of have them push the narrative um, in a in a larger global sense. So what I mean by that in Seattle Dawn, the setting is clearly the Pacific Northwest. It's clearly Seattle area, and so I have created a bunch of different settings within that vistas that the players can visit with their characters. So, for example, when the story started, the three main protagonists in season one, the Night Hunters, they all met for the first time at Pike Place Market in Seattle. Go ahead and put that back there. Gonna bring Alnion forward here. I don't necessarily need to do that, but I like to do that. One quick note because you're probably wondering what the heck's going on here with all these tokens because I've got a bunch of them, right? Um, but when it comes to a lot of the players, they have kind of attachment characters. They have like spirits that they know or their avatar that they can communicate with. So, for example, Jezebel here, um, my pretty, my lovely Jezebel, she has a very strong connection to her avatar, and that avatar manifests as um, Polaris, the celestial horse. And when I made this token, It was just like, hey, let's do some AI art generation and make a nebula that looks like a horse, and it worked out really well. And there's other horses here, right? So I got like this classic celestial horse, and then um, because as the character evolves, so does the avatar. I started playing around with the idea that it's not just a horse. That's just how it presented to her. But I'm getting off on a sidetrack. But yeah, that's what the little tiny icons there are for. So anyway, off on my tangent. Um, so I create a whole bunch of different settings for my players, and originally, when I did this, um, we would have this space that I created, and people would place their tokens on the map and or on the setting, and the idea was, and I'll bring up a good example here. Where is Pike Place? Man. See, this is the downside is that sometimes I lose where things are, and I really should just really work on putting it in alphabetical order. I think that's what I'm going to do um, at some point. Actually, okay, here's what we go. We'll go with downtown Edmonds. All right. So when I'm creating the settings, um, it isn't just thanks, Brian. Yeah, when we're talking about and watching the settings, um, like I said, in the city of Edmonds, there's many different things in Edmonds. There's Claire's restaurant, which I wanted to kind of like highlight, and then there's the fountain in downtown, and then there's the theater that I've frequented, and then there's the ferry that takes you from Edmonds to Kingston, and all these different little pieces that make Edmonds to me Edmonds. And so when I make these settings, I kind of make a bunch of different little postcards. I guess is a good way of putting it. Postcards of the setting, and what that does for me is that I can um, have players move around that setting. So we can take, we'll just take Killian for example. Actually, let's take Killian, Lucia together, right? And they're hanging out in Edmonds, right? The story brings it along, and there they are. And but Lucy is going to meet him at Claire. She's inside the restaurant, and he's at the fountain. They can have totally different experiences. They can have different things going on with them while she's waiting, and I can kind of narrate where they're at and what they're doing and how they're going about the getting from one place to another, and um, they don't not need to be in the same space, but they are still in the same screen. And I had this section here designed to be read by OBS so that I would stream, people could see all the players, but the audience would see a small window that would have this information here. What I'm going to be doing going forward, because experience kind of tells you and shows you different things, is that I'm not necessarily going to have it as a separate window anymore. And I'm not going to show all of that, but what I will say is that what I want to do is make the settings pages more the full background. So similar, I'm going to have like the different setting windows for the players, but I'm going to organize it in such a way that um, it's audience friendly. It's not like a small window that you have to squint at, or that I have to expand for the audience to see. It's going to be a little bit more integrated with the overall OBS overlay. So for example, here's this Edmonds environment. We also have other environments that are here's Pike Place. Pike Place has got like the market, and it's got the flower shop and the gum wall, and the fruit stands, and then there's also the arcade underneath. So when I had the three characters meet here, they started off all pretty much here in the middle. But Jezebel was at the the fruit stand selling strawberries, so I had her token up here. Um, Bing. I forget that you can ping, right? Um, anyway, um, but then I had Charlie down here at the arcade, and Adea was coming in from the farmers market. She could choose where to go, and ended up beating Jezebel and all that. Getting off on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry, I'm gonna do that a lot, I think. So, getting some work done because these are gonna be settings that I'm gonna use in season two, but the formatting's changed. So, and what I mean by that is I've changed the dimensions to kind of be a little easier to work with in the future. So let me show you. So in season two, I'm changing the dimensions that I'm working with in Roll20. I use a larger monitor than what's showing here, so it's a little bit more. I can see things a little better on that monitor. But with this, I'm making the resolution 1080 p, which is the same as standard monitors. I mean HD monitors. Obviously, it's not 4K and Ultra HD, but I'm also just streaming role playing games here. So hold your horses. We don't need Ultra 4K HD. So I want to get the overall vibe to kind of have this look. Um, Here we go. So this is the basic template, and it doesn't look all that dissimilar from the current template that I'm using for the show. Some of the things that I'll be changing is that this background is going to be more animated. So in the background, you're going to be able to see the waving of the silk with the arcane symbols, and it's going to have that. I've made the Seattle at Dawn logo and the Mage 20 badge both um, their own individual things in the overlay. So they're being rendered there. And then I've got this. Man, I thought I put that on not do not disturb. My bad. Sorry, guys. Um, the overlay is going to have the this border. Um, I don't. So that border is also going to be in the overlay, and I'm going to have chroma key out the purple middle area. So with Roll20, what you end up having is I'm going to have this purple area for the players. The players also are not going to see this border. This border is, let's see, is in the GM overlay layer. So I can, so it's not really there for anybody to see. It's basically just a purple background for the players. Um, and so is this logo here. So what's, and then these images can have their own chroma key. So when the game shows things in the background, when I transition to, okay, you guys are at a location, and I can have that location fade in, and it'll fade in here, um, and still have that animated background going, and you'll still see the dice rolling. Um, and I might edit that in here. Let's see if I can show you, because this will be interesting if I can actually pull this off. I know this is, bear with me because I think this is kind of a proof of concept, and you'll see what I'm talking about a little more clearly if I do this. So Hi, it's me again. Hi. So, um, I hope that kind of shows off what I'm planning to do there, because that's pretty fun. You also notice that this page doesn't have the purple background, doesn't have the chroma key, because I will be using this in season one for an episode coming up, and I just haven't set up the animation yet. So, not something the players need to care or know about right now. Um, so, going back to making these scenes, um, I've changed the resolution so that it's 1080. I've made my choice that I'm going to put out the tokens in intervals of 60, because I've set up all these scenes with the grid of 60 by 60, to make it all easier to size. You can see I've made my grid here in Photoshop so that when I am thinking about spacing, I can figure it out in the settings and make the setting. Um, and I can then strip out all the things that I don't need, so I can just pull it into that location. So what I been going on about for 20 minutes is that I'm going to start converting a lot of these spaces, like the splintered wand, switching this up so that it'll be compatible with season 2. So yeah, let's do that. I think that'll be a good fun experiment here. Let's do that. So in before, this was my old template and I would copy, paste, move, adjust, edit other things into this, um, and make those postcards. And the same process is going to happen here. Um, Obviously, a bit more stripped down because I want to have that animated flowing background. Um, so I'm not sure, but what setting should we do? A setting that they're going to visit. I'm going to say yeah. Season 2 is going to get a little dicey for them, so let's try making a better. Ugh. It's just gonna be all of them. So let's just stick with the splintered wand. I like the splintered wand. It's a good place, um, and I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna keep it alive, so to speak, because I think it's a cool idea, and it would not die in my world like it did in the real world. So I'm gonna pull up the original splintered wand. It's under T for the. There we go. Yeah, might as well update. Okay. So now I've got the old template and the new template. And one of the things that has evolved with the show is that these postcards that you see, they're all very square and static. Um, and they are all, um, yeah, they're all very perpendicular and right angles. And more than halfway through the show, I think I started making settings with more perspectives on the cards and just a little bit more fun to be had with that. So we're gonna kind of do that here. I've already done a lot of the heavy lifting with this, so we can take like this layer and we can bring it in here. And I was working in a much higher resolution in the template and then scaling it down. I don't necessarily need to do that. That just seems to be a lot of extra work for me that I don't necessarily need. So we're going to try and space these out and make it similar but not the same because things change. This is season 2. So let's take this image and we're just going to first going to scale it down because it is too big. And it's kind of the title here, so we're gonna kind of keep it the same basic layout here, I think. One of the cool things about having this on this grid is that I can really make it so that I know that the tokens are going to fit in the right space or all that. So that's part of that. Oh, oops. Didn't realize I was on the clock there. Okay. So I'm going to make it about this size for now. So, and we can know that we can get this close before it starts getting covered by the grid. But even by the border. But even if it gets covered by the border, no big deal. I'm not going to be super sad about that. Another thing that we're adding is that in the past we had this lovely descriptor of where you were at. You are at the splintered wand. Um, I have changed how that font works so that in the system here, it's now going to be this area. So it's going to be a little bit prettier. And we're going to change this to the wand. Ta-da, ta-da. Oh, I should probably be smart digital artist and save it. just make that R. Another thing that thinking forward is that the players are going to be in their own windows. They're going to be floating above this tabletop. So I don't necessarily need everything obscured. And when I showed you kind of the moving of the tokens aside, though that space I have figured out is going to be, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but that space is going to be in black and white. I kind of made this focus area. So the stuff that's in black and white is the things that are not going to be visible when the player tokens pull out. When they pull out and they go to the periphery of the screen, we're opening up the setting for the audience to see things better. And so I can have this in this space, but some of it's going to be covered up by those tokens. And that's something that I wanted to be aware of when I was making these. So another thing that I'm having to reconsider or change is like these postcards don't need to fill up the whole page. They really just need to fit in this area, the color purple area. The color purple area. That's funny. So I did that with the drop shadows for the tarot card readings that I'll be doing. Let's see if I can. So you can see these purple areas here. They are in the sweet spot. They're able to be seen by the players when things are rolled out. So that'll be fun when we get there. So back to the splintered wand. This is big. This shows too big. So we're gonna scale it back a little bit more. And it doesn't need to be exactly in the sweet spot area. It can actually overlap a little bit, and I kind of like when it does. All right, so now we've got this splintered wand. We're gonna transform it with some perspective. We want it to kind of come in at an angle, kind of be twisted down a bit, and yeah, like that. And we can see that it's in that grid space. We're going to go ahead and keep it right there. Boom, locked in. Now we can pull in some of our other elements. We've got the big corner door of the building. We can pull this down. Like I said, we don't necessarily have to keep it all. It's going to be covered up by the player's tokens, but it doesn't need to be so stringent in that space. There we go. And pull it down below here. And this one, yeah, we can do a little bit of perspective changing here. Kind of spread this out a bit. Drop that back. And then one of the things that I did with all these layers is that they have layer effects. So they have a drop shadow and all that good stuff. Give them a little bit more depth and play. But I see that I kind of want to make that drop shadow a little bit more noticeable. I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to actually switch it up, and I'm going to make it like really noticeable, really dynamic. So now it's going to be at 60% instead of 35. And I'm going to copy that layer style and then do the same for this other layer. So now they both have deeper, darker shadows. They're going to be able to separate a little bit more because we're going to have a lot of stuff going on here, and I want that to be noticeable. And this is just me kind of feeling out and playing how this is going to look on the screen. Love this dragon. But I'm going to transform it. I'm going to flip it horizontally, and then we're going to put it in the upper right corner instead, because it doesn't have to be perfect and accurate to all the shenanigans. Plus, I kind of like the idea of that dragon being near the storyteller window, because storytellers love dragons. We can push this card up like this. Like we can really, push the extreme on this one. There. I like that. And then we've got Stan, the skeleton at the bar. Boom, boom, boom. We can bring him in here. Scale him down a bit. Scale him down quite a bit because I don't need him to be a centerpiece of anything. He can even be slightly covered up here. So we can, you notice that they're not, they don't have the same layer style. So we're going to have to fix that in a second. But go to the perspective, push it up a little. And you can see I'm not like doing anything too fancy. Just making it a little bit more. There. Cool. So now when the players are in this space, they can, have their tokens go to the different parts of the bar. I think in the future I might actually add a few things in here. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is that I'm not going to just lay this out and have it as one big scene. Certain things will come and go. In this case, we're going to keep this as one set, but I can add different windows and I can make them part of the Roll20 interface, such that I can introduce the different postcards individually instead of all at once. Something that I will probably do more often, but I think with this, I think this is going to look pretty good. And it's just a single setting because who needs all that? So I've pulled in all the elements that I wanted from the original. We can shut it down. Don't have to save it because it didn't do anything to it. I'm really bad about not naming my layers because I don't really necessarily need to do that with everything. So we are going to change their layer style to have that darker shadow. Brilliant. Okay, so now we want to get this in a place where we can make it the background for the game. So I'm going to save this, but then I'm going to drop the mage border. I'm going to drop my focus area spot. I'm going to go through and I've got all these different layers that have the postcards, and then we're going to get rid of the badge. Going to get rid of the Seattle at Dawn logo because that's handled in the OBS, and we're also going to get rid of that. We're also going to get rid of the purple. We're going to make this a fully transparent background, and from there we're going to that's save for web, it's a Control S Alt save. Um, this will save it as a transparency uh, PNG. So we're just going to do that. And that might need to be changed. But okay. Settings, splintered one, PNG. There we go. All right. So now that we've got that, we can make a new splintered one. And I've got all these set up as um, what they are, but we're going to actually make this a copy. Season 2. And we're just going to, not going to worry about the objects and tokens, but all the GM info, lighting, all that should remain the same. Okay. Here we are. So this was just a background. So I'm going to name it Splintered Wand. And for now, it's just going to be season 2. There. Go to our map layer. Get rid of the old map. Get rid of that. The background is already the set purple that I want. I can pull up, since it was just a recent file that I made, it is going to be here in my recents and Roll20. If you're on the map layer and you have the right settings, you can just drag and drop. And that will then correctly size and put it in there. You can then, and since I've got it set to snap to the grid, and I've got my grid at 60 pixel increments, it's really easy to just plop it right in there. And there we go. We now have the splintered wand. I like to lock the position so that I don't accidentally move it. And if I actually have anything that I want to add to it, I can do that. So now, this is what players would see. They would see this. But this is what we, the audience, would see. Let me pull that up. So, as an example, let's get back to and these are the type of things that I'm thinking about going forward. How to make the game more dynamic for the audience while still being able to run everything myself, because it's a challenge. I've had to figure out ways of keeping everything in track because I'm, you know, doing all the artwork. I'm doing the storytelling. I'm running the board for the production. So I'm also the director and the producer, and it's a lot. And I'm doing it all live um, at the table. I record it and I put it out there, but I really have designed it to be as much in camera as possible so that I could do all the same things that you see in the show. I don't do a whole lot of like additional editing for our shows. I just do it all in the same space in the camera. And with the occasional exception, I don't need to really bring things in from the outside in the editing. But hopefully, that's a little bit of an insight into how Seattle at Dawn handles our settings and how I go about thinking about engaging my players and our audience. But that's about it for now. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Twitch, and um, keep your Mondays magical, I guess. Thanks again.